everyone. Um, Hello again to everyone here live, and hello to anyone who's listening to this asynchronously. Thank you for tuning in to the Broom Radio podcast, where honestly, this broadcast channel serves as a hub for so many different iterations and containers that hold space for what I would call like the spiritual maturation and blossoming that takes place in the broom. And I'm not saying that just because like I've spiritually blossomed and grown in the broom, because it's really easy to say that. But I have also held space and have witnessed other people blossom just from, yeah, like spending time in these containers. So today's episode of the podcast is impromptu. This is me, Hoda, by the way, Intrepid Bodies. And I wanted to hop on the radio today, the broadcast channel, to transmit a little bit about the intersections of celebrityhood, influencerhood, and spirituality. Um, I'm also going to be pulling from themes regarding this year's Met Gala and also speak to like some of the themes that were present in this year's Met Gala. And I'm also hoping to have space to pull some cards. The cards that I'm using today are from the Anubis Oracle. And I forget who this deck is by, but I'll make sure to write the information about this deck in the episode details. Then another deck that I'm using is the Goddess Oracle deck, which again, I don't have the like boxes that these came in, so I'm not sure who this deck is by, but I'm hoping to kind of get into it and just pull some cards from my spirits to see like what are the messages, the esoteric nudges behind really big collective events that garner a lot of attention, a lot of awareness. And I also want to kind of pull cards too on what we as individuals, ooh, there's a huge wasp to the left of me right now. I want to pull cards to see what we as individuals can do to transmute and also like work with and mold the energy that we face just in not only like day-to-day life, but I mean, honestly, as a spiritual practitioner, for me, it's hard pressed to say that huge celebrity events and huge events that happen in Hollywood, um, I'd be lying if I said that they're not like a grab bag for people's attention. I'm also very aware that we're in an attention economy. So I feel like people doing what they have to do to garner allure from audiences and patrons is not necessarily what I want to critique. What I want to critique is like shielding like the vampiric side of celebrityhood and influencerhood. And then also like pull some cards to see what spirit would like us to do as opposed to being witness to just a bunch of people like living what I would call like artificial lives, real shit. Um, so yeah, that's a lot of context. I would like to just hold space and take a sip of my water to see what's coming up for anyone who's here live. Um, and yeah.
What's up, Huda? What's up, Lexi? This is Nobu. I am very curious because I feel like the energy today has been very hmm. Well, I was like watching some stuff about the Met Gala and like I guess people are calling it like the Digiteen.
Hmm.
Like basically like coordinated blocking of celebrity accounts. And like the solar weather's been pretty intense, so I feel like that's kind of like the ambient noise. Um, but I feel like I guess like for me, it's like giving sort of like, you know, if you're in the seat or if you have the mic and you're not going to use it and get off of it.
Mm. Ooh, yeah, that's really powerful. I'm like, I'm laughing a little bit um, because I'm kind of curious, like, what do you mean when you say that? Like, if you have the mic and you're not going to use it, you should probably like get off of it or pass it on. Um, yeah, I'm kind of curious if there's more context there, and if not, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think like what you said about the attention economy is very real. There's like a lot of things we could be giving awareness to, right? Like Mother's Day just passed, so we could be like, I would say like, I guess I'm going to say serenading our matrilineal lineages. We could be like giving our shade to our mitochondrial DNA. You know, there's a war in Ukraine, there's a war in the Levant, which I feel like we could be giving our awareness to. I'm not sure like whether it's very actionable, but I feel like also like a lot of people are really hard up right now, really suffering, um, probably working a lot in jobs that they don't necessarily find intrinsically worthwhile or like intrinsically deserving of their attention. Um, but instead, or like maybe like in addition to, people are giving a lot of awareness to celebrities and like influencers. And so it's like if you're going to be taking my awareness away from, I would say, like issues of that kind of gravity, then I feel like you have to be saying something like, if it doesn't like ameliorate those issues, like I feel like it should like ameliorate like my material circumstances. So that's kind of what I mean by like using the mic. And you know, if people aren't doing that, then maybe they should give up the mic and give it up to people who are willing to try and like help people get through life with a little less suffering.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm really piqued by what you said about like, um, yeah, just like the dynamic of the attention economy, the current conflicts, like these intersections, right, of like the current conflict in the world, and then like people watching the Met Gala. Um, I feel like to me, it communicates like this deep disconnect that I feel a lot of people have been speaking to. And I think, I guess, like I'm reading it as like the onus for the digitine is like people kind of getting tired of tuning into these people who are seemingly relatable, like seemingly easy to get along with, and seemingly connected to like, when we tune into like YouTube channels and like, we're bought into people's lives. Like, for example, if I'm subscribed to somebody's YouTube or I'm part of their mystery school and I'm paying money and I'm like patronizing, also like supplying their lifestyle, it's also like, I don't think that they have a responsibility to me. I don't feel that deluded, but I do feel like what the issue is for me is when the person I'm tuning into has a perspective that doesn't align, that doesn't ally, that doesn't protect, that doesn't support, that doesn't even notice my perspective, which is a perspective that's for many people is like down to earth, working jobs again that they're not, fully satisfied with, looking at events in the world where they have to like witness other people suffering, witness war, and are expected to carry on. And it's like, where, like, what are you doing with my attention as a viewer, for example, is where I feel like for me, the Met Gala kind of took me where I'm like, it's interesting because the theme of this year's Met Gala is from a story. I'm going to share it in the chat and also click it open. And the story is a short story from 1962 by J.G. Ballard called The Garden of Time. And the dress code for the Met Gala was inspired by the Garden of Time, which is, I don't want to read the whole story, but essentially the book is about how um, a group of people in power um, have access to this almost like mystical garden where each time they pluck a flower, the like masses of everyday people are pulled into like a time. This is how I'm describing it. This is my interpretation. They're pulled into a time loop where their world is further divided from the elites in this particular story. And then the elites, with the time that they have, now that they pluck this flower, are able to buy more time essentially and hoard more wealth and hoard more resources and hoard more beauty. And this battle of time is really, really interesting to me. It's super profound on one level. And then on another level, to kind of witness um, the Met Gala taking on this theme as a feature of Hollywood that's doing pretty much the same thing with the audience that is us, it's a trip for me. I'll be honest, it's very trippy for me. Um, and the juxtaposition of those two, I guess, worlds coming together, right? This short story, this world that was written by J.G. Ballard being transposed onto this world of Hollywood. Sometimes it feels like the elites, I'll say, like, be telling on themselves. In other words, like, some of these sleight of hand social maneuvers to garner people's attention, I think are not as sleight of hand anymore. And for me personally, they're incredibly transparent regarding, yeah, like the level of vampirism um, that these industries are gunning for regarding people's attention, regarding people's time, and regarding people's like spiritual energy, you know? And I'm going to segue a little bit, but I feel like a lot of this came up for me when the Kendrick and Drake beef like surfaced. I remember on the first day that it surfaced, I was like, oh, this is kind of sick. This is kind of cool. The second day, it's so, like, you know, it was still discussion about it was still hitting the airways. I was like, okay, interesting. And then for me, by the third day, I was like, okay, what are we going to do with all of this? Like, what are Kendrick and Drake, for example, as individuals, going to do with all of this attention now that they have it? You know, like, what are they going to do with all the money that they get from the streams now that they have it? And it's like, I feel like that's a question that I have not been or felt confident enough to ask out loud until like this point in my life where I'm like, I'm getting more selective. And I'm sure many people are just kind of getting to a place where they're sick and tired of their time being wasted in a particular way. That, yeah, I feel like asking those questions is absolutely par for the course. Is absolutely par for the course. Um, so I've been transmitting for a little, so I'm going to read the chat. Let's see. Lexi says, wow. And Nobu writes, right. It's like, yeah, we're acting in contempt of the people. And so what? Oh, they must be too dumb to know that we're doing or make the correlation between the story and the way that we are behaving. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm really happy you said that too, Nobu, because I sometimes feel that way. And I'm curious if y'all ever feel something similar, like, these industries or these like Hollywood basically like feeling like Hollywood is like quote unquote playing in your face. Let me put play like this idea of like selling um parts of like human evolution back to you. And so I'm not with it. I'm not with it. Um so yeah, it's interesting because I've like kind of feeling called now to pull some cards on the state of affairs here. and ask these bigger questions to spirit and see what spirit has to say about our relationship as individuals to the attention economy. How we can truly, not metaphorically, like truly reclaim our time and also act in ways that are not even act, like behave in ways that consider one's own attention and time and space as something worth protecting. Yeah. And like she says, yeah, I've been wary of celebs and Hollywood since a teen. Mhm. Would you say, Lexi, it's like a feature of like being tapped in metaphysically, or like something that you can see about celebs in Hollywood that like makes you wary? I'm also just shuffling the cards. Oh, card pull. Okay, I'm gonna read what Lexi said. I think it first started with religion and then developed more into senses, like discernment and things that, yeah, totally. I think I can feel what you're putting down. No, this is ironically, I ate some brioche on Mother's Day and it made me feel sick. Yes. And then there's a gif of Marie Antoinette, the film, um, where is it Kirsten Dunst playing Marie Antoinette saying, "Let them eat cake," which is also part of. I think that's a phrase that's been part of a lot of this digitine, right? Where I really, really, really sympathize with people who are simply like blocking celebrities. Because there was a celebrity, I forget what her name is, who dressed in the costume of like Marie Antoinette and basically like recorded herself saying, "Let them eat cake." And I was like, dude, there are wars happening in this world. We're having an economic crash. And saying something like "let them eat cake" is so freaking out of touch. Yeah, Haley Bailey. Yes. Yes. Yeah, and then Nova says the term cake is mistranslated from brioche. Yep, I learned that yesterday. Ooh, I wonder. I'm not gonna read this out loud. What Lexi wrote, but I do. I just want to say, Lexi, I see what you wrote. The Venus card fell out, so I'm gonna leave it out, and I'll just start with the spread. Spirit, when it comes to celebs and spirituality and the attention economy, guide us and lead us towards messages that will help us reclaim our time and our space. Woo. Reveal to us the intention. Show us how we can transmute other people's intention to benefit our alignments. Mm. Okay, and we pulled just a couple more cards from the Anubis Oracle to anchor this reading. Surely, guide us and share with us breadcrumbs that will provide clarity, resolve, ingenuity. Ashe. Ashe. Okay. Yeah, I said breadcrumbs, and we're talking about brioche in the chat. Love that sync. All right, so I'm gonna share these cards with y'all. Oh wait, I just realized one of them is like covered. And then I'll share the two cards from the Anubis Oracle. My phone is being very slow right now. Okay, I'll read out the cards while my technology figures itself out. So the first card we have is the Queen of Staves, the Queen of Wands. The next card is the Juno card, represented or symbolizing tradition. The next card is the Seven of Swords. The next card is the Goddess Rhiannon, symbolizing movements. In the center, we have Venus, symbolizing love. And then the last card in the Goddess spread is the Seven of Wands, Seven of Staves in reverse. The two cards that I pulled from the Anubis Oracle is the first card that came out is the key card of Anubis himself, herself, symbolizing the spiritual work of opening the way, of opening the way. And the next card from the Anubis Oracle, after the Anubis card itself, is the card Wajet, symbolizing life force energy, purification, and the spiritual work of catalyzing or awakening people. Lexi put a fire emoji in the chat. Yeah, there's a lot of fire energy here. There's a lot of fire energy here. So I guess on the onset, the first thing that comes up regarding these intersections of celebrityhood, spirituality, the attention economy, and spiritual cultivation. We have the Queen of Staves here, which represents the Queen of Wands, a figure who represents power, direction, being filled with life force energy. And this figure here is, I feel symbolically in this particular spread, symbolizes the onus or the roots that is driving this industry, the attention economy, the uptick in like celebrity debacles or celebrity grabs, Hollywood grabs for attention, let's say. So in other words, the Queen of Staves to me represents this almost root driving force where these different, I would say, attempts at garnering like one's attention come from a root desire. So basically spirit's saying like this is about money, this is about like resources, this is so like our awareness and our attention is not decoupled from our resources, is not decoupled from our sense of feeling our sense of feeling safe, our sense of even having enough to like eat, drink, sleep, right? So the Queen of Staves is like the driving force behind this. Then we have the tradition card or Juno, which is symbolically represented by tradition. These archetypical, almost time honored ways of cultures and movements, just kind of being used, almost like crystallized and functioning in this kind of way, like this machine of Hollywood and production, and even like working jobs that we don't really like fuck with, for lack of better words, um, is 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 that way because like it's almost like spirit wants to say that like if people knew better, they would do better, but because they don't know any better, it's because the collective doesn't have as many opportunities to, let's say, like imagine something different or imagine a life. And I say imagine, but imagine is like, I feel like to purify your imagination is like a spiritual practice. So this card, the Juno card, to me represents us as like the people, the masses, having compassion for people who are like kind of stuck in these traditional ways of creating resources, creating wealth, having compassion for them, but then also um looking at the Seven of Swords card. It's almost like spirits like, okay, have compassion, but also like pack your shit up and leave. Like, and it might not be literal, it might not be like getting out of certain circumstances, but like the Seven of Swords represents this figure who is holding all of their swords and moving forward. Usually this card can be represent, or it's usually symbolizes a part in our lives or like a portion in our lives where we feel like we're holding on too much. But it's interesting because spirit is like, there's like a couple of conflicting messages coming through right now, but I feel like it relates to how you can still have compassion for a way of life. You can have, you can see and understand to the depths, to the core, why something is the way that it is. But if you don't get out of its way, especially if that thing does not have your best interest at heart, then it behooves you to kind of pack up your shit and like get out of its way. Right? Because this is about, especially because when we go back to the Queen of Spades, this is about survival. This is about making it, like longevity. This is about having enough resources to get you through life. But if our awareness is kind of pivoted in all of these different directions, then we won't have the know-how, the energy, and the zeal to even be like, I want something different for myself, and to diverge from what is considered traditional, you know? So the Seven of Swords is about gathering your bearings. This is about using what you know to be common sense for yourself to get yourself out of the way of this machine, basically, of celebrityhood, influencerhood, um, and move into a place that's actually supportive, not only for your own ecosystem, but for your own self, you know? And so this is about divesting, but I think spirit really wants us to be wise in the ways that we divest, and not to create, you know, like if we're going to take our attention away from one particular leg of like Hollywood, not to just turn around and give our attention and awareness away to just another influencer or, you know, another personality head or a talking head, right? So, oh, can you hear me now? Oh, okay. Audio glitch. Interesting. Okay, you guys can hear me now? Okay, cool. I think I had a Wi-Fi glitch. Yeah, I think what I said was I was holding space to see if y'all had anything to reflect back regarding the first couple cards, but if not, no pressure. I think I might just keep channeling. So the next card that we have here is the goddess Rhiannon, which symbolizes movements. So we see this figure, this woman on a horse riding down a trail. It looks like this card, I think, connects to the message prior that Spirit is like giving us around um, moving faster than the wheels of time, or like moving faster than the hands of time. it's interesting because before I got on this call, um, I was thinking about Saturn, which I think I told Lexi and Nobu about, and I just kind of was. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of just like feeling defeated about time, and also wondering like what what can we do to like maneuver around the machine, right? Like the leviathan of propaganda. How can we maneuver around that on an individual sense and a collective sense? And to me, this Rhiannon card actually like answers that question pretty directly for me and for anyone else who is wondering. And I feel like Spirit is saying, make moves based on what it is that you need, based on what it is that you desire, based on what it is that feeds you and that you really truly want to feed back, what you love, what you care about, what you want to see in this world. And that's what we have the opportunity to do. Like Spirit's reminding us, we have the opportunity to do that when we reclaim our attention, our money from when we could reclaim it from the propaganda machine. We recognize like what life can actually be like. And then we're inspired to move our drive, the thing that's like driving our root impulses has nothing to do with the propaganda machine. So what is more liberating than that? Spirit wants us to know. The answer is nothing, honestly. I mean, there are like expressions of liberation, which I think the Venus card, the next card here, wants to remind us of, right? Like there are expressions of a beautiful life, there are expressions of alignments, but all of those expressions are downstream of like liberation, like spiritual liberation. So I can't spend all my time saying that celebs are keeping us as sheep and they're keeping us asleep and they're keeping us down. If I want my life to be worthwhile, I have to reclaim my energy from that impulse of calling people out and recapitulate that impulse into creation energy. As that's how we can show that we love ourselves, which all feels allegorical, but I also feel like, yeah, in this message, Spirit is being very, very literal. I do want to clarify on this Venus card, though, or this interplay between Rhiannon and Venus. Hold on, y'all. We have some cards fell out. And, ooh, interesting. The card that came out to act as a bridge between like what we can do to bridge our desires, our life force, and our vision for like not only our lives but like a collective vision. We have the goddess Tara, who symbolizes beginnings. And I'm gonna read out of the deck booklet. Tara represents to me. So let's see. Oh, Tara, Tara. All right, it says Tara symbolizing beginnings. Tibetans believe that the goddess Tara has the power to heal all sorrows and grant all wishes. Tara is honored as a protectress against the many fears that block men and women from living in happiness and harmony. The meaning of this card is the type of innocence which protects. This card also represents beginnings, optimism, innocence, and trust. So I feel like this interplay between the principality of movements, the principality of love, and the principality of fresh beginnings, new beginnings, is acting as like these three principles I feel are burgeoning inside a lot of people as they reclaim um as they reclaim their energy from the signature of Chronos, like traditional time, or like what we're used to using our time for lack of better words. And the things that actually help us want to reclaim our time are, I don't know, because I also feel like spirit is kind of redirecting my attention to like the subtle impulses that inspire liberation. Like why would a human want to be liberated from, you know, the way things are, the way things usually are, and how it's almost like spirit is reminding me in this moment that it's innocence that wants to protect the purity of life. Um and I feel like for me, like these three goddesses are really like reminding us that yeah, and even the seven of staves in reverse, like that card is a card about having the upper hand in a larger battle or against an opponent, but not realizing you have the upper hand, you know, especially when it's reversed. And so this interplay of like, I think the human collective and humans in general just waking up to not only their power but their innocence, their purity, and how meaningful um emoting and desiring from those pure places are can be like restorative, not only to like our personal scopes but our lineages, can also be very very healing for the earth itself, like the consciousness of earth. And I feel like honestly, like for me, like some of the most profound moments in my own path or just in my own day-to-day life are like when I recognize that interconnectedness and can offer something to it, you know? And so I feel like, yeah, it's really interesting because I feel like spirit's being super loving about how we can um, refresh our own personal motivations. And, you know, if we're the type of person that is going to be participating in the digitine, for example, or you're going to be boycotting Hollywood, you're going to be boycotting different companies and industries that are funding the wars, the different wars, for example, I feel like doing it out of a place of love for humanity, a place of love for yourself can be the fuel, like all the fuel you need. It can truly be like all the fuel you need, you know? And it's interesting because I'm like on a surface level, like my personality is very rah, rah, rah. But when it comes to making actual change, I feel like spirit is reminding me to remind anyone who's listening that that's not always how change, transformation, and radical transformation on a collective level is sustained. It is not. So I want to move on to the cards from the Anubis Oracle. And see what this is about. Hmm. The opener of the way, the opener of the way, the opener of the way. I get a sense that this Anubis card is here to remind us how important it is to pave our own path in a way that relies on our authentic imagination, our authentic sense of self, and our authentic desires. On this card, we have the figure Anubis with a key in their left hand and a wide open heart. The dove of peace behind or next to their left ear, and a rainbow serpent to the figure's right on the card, with lotus flowers and pomegranates, and the full moon also pictured in the card. And I feel like this card is emphasizing the message of literally love leading the way. And I'm laughing because I feel like I can feel a little resistance in my own field around that, like love leading the way. And then as I feel that resistance, I'm also like, okay, what is it in me that doesn't want to open my heart? How can I heal that? And then how can I try again the next day? And I feel like that's what this Anubis card is reminding us too, that not all hope is lost. Like life is a difficult art to live and express. And this Anubis card is also, oh God, there's like so much coming through my channel right now. But I also think of how like how satisfying it is to manifest or co-create or birth something into life when it comes from a conscious and like heart and place. So like on the one hand, I feel the Anubis card is motivating us to be like, yes, like get out of your own way, pave your path. And on the other hand, on another octave, I feel like the Anubis card is reminding us to like remain in touch with what's true so that the direction that we're moving in actually like matches and aligns with her. Then we have the Wajet card, and the Wajet card represents life force energy, purification, and the role of catalyzing individuals or divinely awakening them. And I really love the Wajet card with the serpents with the eye of Horus on its chest. Um, a particular hat. I don't want to like act like I know what this hat is. And we have lotuses also on this card as well. And the Wajet card to me represents like spiritual, like a moments of spiritual enlightenment. And I feel like the interplay between Anubis and Wajet symbolize this process of recognition being transformed into right action, being transformed into unifying actions, being transformed into life affirming actions. Like, so a process is what I hear. Um, a process that has to do with, yeah, like some like deep transformation, like deep transformation of, I would say, like, because these cards on the Nubis Oracle, I feel like capture vaster swaths of energy. I do feel like these cards are speaking to like transforming like human motivation, but like from within. And it sounds very, very like a very tall order. But I feel like also in this reading, that's what spirit wants us to know. Like any change that we want to see precipitated in the outside world has to start from within, has to start on the micro level, has to start with our immediate ecosystems, our immediate biomes. And I feel like this combination between Anubis and Wajet um, is kind of a reminder of this interplay between as above, so below, the principality of um, yeah, like all of these things being ripened at a particular time, taking action from there, resting when you need to, and then refueling for when you need to take action again. So it's like spirit wants us to know that it's going to be practice, that it's going to take time for us to adjust, to adjust to these new, I guess, like motivations, a new understanding of our connection to earth and like shielding like our fellow man. And then evolving from there. So I have these little coins. It's the last thing that I'm going to share. Ah, interesting. Thank you, Noah, for sharing that. I just looked at the chat. There's an image of Horus. Ah, and the hat looks very similar to the hat that is pictured in the Wajek card. Oh, thank you. Oh, yes. Okay, I'm looking at the rest of the chat. Lexi says that aligns. Thank you for saying. Appreciate that. Nobu says moving into sidereal Taurus with the Sun and Jupiter and Uranus, Venusian and material slash Earth themes for me. Yes, totally. Ooh, I love this interplay between Venusian and Earth um themes. Nobu also said that the Wajak card, I'm assuming, maybe, is giving usurper energy for me. Yes, Lord. I mean, we also talk about the changing of the guards, um, the gods in the room, which to me relates to this, um, this idea of like the pole shift that people talk about, where like the Earth and the Sun's magnetic poles are changing, which to me, I think, like kind of downstream from that translates to like the deities or the entities like protecting Earth on one end are changing places with the deities and the energies that were protecting Earth on another end. And so it's very interesting that the word usurper is being mentioned here, because I do feel like this container is about that, right? Like this container is about how like the collective sphere and scope, and almost like even the funnels that cosmic energy is being funneled down, like down towards, are changing. And that does, to me, it kind of, it means a lot, but I feel like on a personal, like human level, for humans to kind of change the way that they channel cosmic and earth energy, if the poles and the way that the earth sees itself is changing, it makes a lot of sense for humanity and individuals to change the way that they see not only themselves, but how they worship, who they worship, what they do with that worship, what worship means altogether, you know? And so I think it's a challenging time for the better as well. Um, but again, the usurper is really tickling me. So I'm gonna pull these coins, and then I think I'm gonna close out the reading. These coins are just for me, they're very Jupiterian. They're like, what do I take away for myself from a larger reading? And we have strength and luck. So I'm going to make some offerings relating to strength, relating to fortune outside of this container. For anyone who is listening on the podcast, and feel free to tune into those offerings by breathing and sensing what comes up. And with that, I will close this container and thank everyone for tuning in. And see you all next time. Oh, yeah, feel free to support not only me, but the Broom Radio by clicking the Buy Me a Coffee link in the episode description to keep transmissions and spaces that transmit material like this alive and flourishing. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, bye. Oh, wait, it didn't do it.